I was very disgusted when I heard these stories, and I know for a fact that you will be too. I get that families can be quite tough at times because we can't really choose them, but the family members in today's episode definitely take the top spot for being just pure evil and horrible. Don't forget about viewers and listeners' discretion, as today is going to be a wild one. Let's dive right into it. In 2014, in a small village of Domažlice in the Czech Republic, a 14-year-old girl woke up from an excruciating pain in her stomach. She got up and ran to the bathroom, but soon she noticed that she was also bleeding. Because of the girl's age, this was something she was still getting used to, as she only started having her periods about a year earlier, and so far it has not even been regular yet. So the girl tried calming herself down. She reached for one of her period pads and also took a couple of paracetamol tablets and then headed back to her bed. But as she tried going back to sleep, the pain was not going away, and so it was clear that the meds were not working for her. She also continued to bleed profusely, and so now, all panicked, the girl got up again and hunched over from all the pain, which was the absolute worst she has ever experienced. She shuffled towards her foster parents' bedroom, knocked on the door, and entered. Her foster parents, who were in their 60s, slowly woke up, but when they saw what state their daughter was in, they immediately knew that something must have been going wrong, and so they headed for the hospital straight away. As the girl was rushed into the emergency room, the hospital staff were asking her all sorts of questions, as they were trying to get to the bottom of what could have caused her bleeding to start. And what they ultimately found out would leave them and the whole country in pure shock and disgust for years to come. The 14-year-old girl did not get her period early, nor did she suffer from some horrible mysterious illness, but it would turn out that the girl was actually going through a miscarriage. Once the girl was properly taken care of, the police were called in and investigation was launched. The age of consent in the Czech Republic is 15, so the authorities had to get involved to figure out what had actually happened. The girl seemed very shy and did not want to divulge much at all. But as the questioning got more intense, eventually she would confess that she did not have a boyfriend whom she accidentally had gotten pregnant with, but that she was actually sexually abused by her very own foster father, who was 51 years older than her. The girl did not want to give any more information regarding the situation, and in her own words, this was someone whom she had called dad, and so she didn't want to say anything more against him. This of course shocked everyone, but equally the investigators were operating under a tight time frame, and so they requested an autopsy on the fetus to obtain a DNA sample, and in the meantime they set off to interrogate a foster father. But when they approached the farm the family had been living at, the man was said to have been armed and would not go in for questioning easily. Eventually the police did detain him and brought him into the station where he would deny the whole situation. However, after his DNA sample was tested against the fetus, there was a link found between the samples, and so this was used as the condemning evidence against the man. Several neighbors would also confirm that this family was an odd one, and that there was always multiple young girls staying there. To them, it actually looked as if the foster parents were running a brothel, as many cars, particularly with German license plates, were often seen coming in and then soon leaving after. The full findings of this investigation have not been made publicly, and so we don't really know the extent of the situation or what the court ordered the foster fathers to serve. But at the time, the longest sentence he could have gotten for his crimes was in the reign of 10 years behind bars. In early 2020, in a town of Plzeň in the Czech Republic, a 10-year-old boy named Jakub was getting ready to visit his father. Jakub's parents were divorced, and so Jakub would spend a weekend with his dad every 2 weeks. And even though Jakub really loved his dad, in the last 3 years he became less and less keen on heading over to his dad's place. The main reason for this had nothing to do with his father, but everything to do with his dad's new girlfriend, a 26-year-old woman named Markéta. The situation would get so bad that Jakub would now practically beg his mother and grandmother not to go, because he was absolutely terrified of what Markéta might do to him over the weekend again. At first, nobody was really paying attention to the boy, but soon enough, Jakub's behavior started to change for the worse. Prior to any of this, Jakub would have been described as a bright, happy boy. But now he was becoming more and more stressed and anxious, especially before and after his visits at the father's place. And unfortunately, it would take those 3 long years before any of his family started to realize that there must have been something horribly wrong going on. Once this was determined, though, it wouldn't take too long for everyone to know that the situation Jakub would often find himself in would be just like from a twisted movie. The whole situation would also reach the court, with the latest hearing taking place on the 18th of March 2025. Here is what actually happened to Jakub during those years of 2017 to 2020. Markéta, who was just 26 years at the time when she met Jakub, turned out to have some very disturbing practices when it came to parenting the little boy. Whenever Jakub would misbehave, Markéta would lock him up in a small cupboard and hold him there for hours and hours. She would not even let the boy out to relieve himself, and so if he didn't manage to hold it in until he was let out again, she would then make the boy clean it up after himself with his bare hands. Markéta also forced the boy to drink his own urine and vomit, but this was far from the worst. The young woman would tie Jakub up, cram him into her car's footwell, and then stick a piece of adhesive tape over the boy's eyes. She would then place a noose around his neck, which she would then tighten as she told the boy to lick it, and drove with him around the town for hours like that. Another time, Markéta would put the boy into a black bin bag and tie it tightly around his body, and then gag the boy with a self-pleasuring device. Markéta was also accused of walking around the boy naked or in a tight latex suit. She would even go that far of tying the boy up and inserting an object into his rectum, which of course would cause the boy a lot of pain. She would also touch the boy in his private areas and then take pictures of everything she had done to him, so that next time he misbehaved again, she would show him and remind him what would happen to him if he didn't listen to her commands again. And it were these pictures, together with the boy's testimony, that would send this case to court. According to a number of psychologists that have been involved in this case, the boy's age and not understanding what those practices were linked to made it all clear that he did just not make any of this up. And of course, the actual images taken by Markéta made for a pretty stellar evidence against her. The woman still claimed that she had never assaulted the boy and that she only wanted him to behave, hence why she took those photos. And even Jakub's father remains on Markéta's side. During one of the hearings, he did confirm that the boy in those pictures was indeed his son, but he also added that he didn't understand under what circumstances they could have been taken. Even with all of this evidence and testimony, in late 2023, the court decided to only sentence Markéta to 5 years of probation. This obviously caused a lot of backlash and anger in the public, but thankfully, the first verdict was recently overturned by the Supreme Court in Brno. They explained that 5 years of probation would never going to be an adequate punishment for child abuse, especially when taken into account the overwhelming evidence. But with the latest hearing that happened on the 18th of March 2025, we are still currently awaiting to hear regarding Markéta's sentence, which in the end should be in the region of 7 to 10 years in prison. According to Jakub's mother, the little boy is currently recovering and mainly focusing on school. He's doing a lot better now that the weekend visits with his father have stopped, but of course only time will tell in regards to the boy's mental health.